Hey guys, I'm Gio. I am an amateur writer, and the purpose of my channel is to record my work so I can listen to it later. Hearing my novels lets me get a different perspective on the work as a whole. It's not so much in my mind anymore, and it lets me get a handle on various problems it might have. The work is fiction and original, of course, I wrote it, and you're welcome to listen in. I write gay fiction. Any sex is left off camera, so if that's what you're looking for, this isn't the place. Also, I'm still learning the craft, so I'm bound to make mistakes. I'm sorry about that. All names and businesses are made up. If they match up with someone or something, it's just a coincidence. Let's begin. From a Stranger, by me. Chapter 1. Elio Haye Smith, 5 years ago, May 12th. My left knee screamed. Something besides water dripped down my face. The shore was so close. We hadn't crashed more than a dozen feet off the beach, but in the dark, it could have been a mile. The surf was wild, pushing us one way, then the other, off the rocks, back onto the rocks. Black water, black sky, black rain. I couldn't tell where to go. I held Billy, crawling and dragging and slithering him up through the surge. He wasn't moving. I kept his head above water, but the surf was too strong. He kept going under. A 2-foot wave somehow pushed us to shore. My left leg wouldn't move. Billy didn't move. His skin was as cold as the water. My best friend's neck bobbed like some insane bobblehead. There was the car drowning in the water, its front end smashed. Horn wouldn't shut up, headlights still on and making the incoming waves look huge. "Billy!" I pulled, ignoring the screaming, throbbing agony that was my knee. Fighting the water, I dragged his body again and again. I gained an inch. The current dragged us back. "Billy, hang on." The wave dashed over us, filling my mouth with water. It swamped both of us, and when it had passed, we were further from shore. I couldn't tell if Billy was breathing. "Billy!" He bobbed on the waves like some doggy toy. "Somebody, help us!" Billy didn't move. His skin was so cold, dead kind of cold. I dragged him forward, trying to grip something on the bottom, just loose rocks. "Help!" I screamed until I was hoarse, and then I kept screaming. It was my fault. I had been driving. Saturday, June 21st. Now. Daniel Roberson. "Where's your tux, yoga boy?" Twisting around in the passenger seat of the SUV, I scanned the items in the back. Got it, musclehead. It's in the garment bag. 2 hours to go, and then I and Ashley would be leaving Dead Man's Butte and heading to McCarran International Airport down in Vegas as husband and wife. Dead Man's Butte, a small town an hour north of Vegas, boasted the greatest views of the desert of any place in the Mojave. Maybe someday I'd get excited about that. "Suitcase?" David said. My older brother is an definite type A personality. Played baseball in high school and college. Dad's second golden child who gave him the first grandchild. Blonde, crew cut, blue eyes, and built like a linebacker. Just like dear old Dad. On the floor. "The groom's ring?" Feeling in my shorts pocket, I found the little cloth bag and pulled it out. "Ready." "I can't believe you're finally doing it." David sped through the traffic, pulling ahead of a red BMW. "Tonight, you and Ashley will be in Hawaii, sipping Mai Tais on white sandy beaches, doing absolutely nothing. I am so jealous. My honeymoon was a weekend in Vegas." "Then, would you answer one question?" "Name it, baby bro," David said. "Stop calling me that. You're only 2 years older than me." 2 years wiser and better looking." "Melissa's been lying to you then." "Ouch," David said and dodged around another car. "Why is traffic so slow when you are in a hurry?" "When did you stop thinking getting married was a mistake?" David slammed on the horn, rolled out his window, and swore at the car next to us. "What's that?" "Nothing." I gripped the door handle as the car swerved around an old Volkswagen bus covered in peace signs. Why should I be terrified? Ashley was the woman I had loved since we were seniors at Long Ridge High, home of the Rattlers. She had been a cheerleader, me a math nerd. I helped her pass math, and science, and chemistry, and she became my girlfriend. And she had been by me as I graduated college with a bachelor's of accounting degree. I was a full-blown CPA. Beat that, football and baseball jocks. I was going places, even if I wasn't one of the star athletes of the family. It was time to take mine and Ashley's relationship to the final level. Ashley would be mine, and I would be hers. together for the rest of our lives. Except, I kept thinking that I had made a huge mistake. I was a gay man forcing myself to be straight. "Looks like Dad beat us here." David pulled into the Sunset Dunes reception center. "Are you sure you have everything?" "I think I left my brains somewhere. And my courage. Come on, Dorothy. Your heart awaits." David parked, jumped out. The Sunset Dunes reception center specialized in weddings. Ornamental pillars set just right for pictures. Enough steps for a bridal gown to have a glorious train, and roses planted everywhere. And little statues. Ashley had chosen this venue, got our names on a waiting list 8 months ago. Guess who paid for it? If someone said Ashley or her parents, they'd be wrong. And there was David's wife, Melissa, dark-haired and tan, running down the stairs, dabbing a tissue at her eyes. Not the polite little tear touch you see at church, but a scene from some Warner Brothers drama, makeup smearing down her cheeks, hair a little frazzled, even her nose dripped tears. David stepped around the SUV and grabbed his wife. "Hey, what's wrong, sweetheart?" Melissa shook her head and bit her lips. She left David and hugged me. "Are you okay?" I asked. She shook her head and turned back to David. "Did something happen to Amy?" David asked. Amy was their daughter, a cute little toddler with enough energy to power half of Dead Man's Butte. Melissa shook her head and dabbed at her eyes. "Daniel, you have to talk to Derek." She managed to get out before she sobbed again. David held her. "Tell me what happened." Melissa bit her lips again, and another small sob escaped. "I am so sorry." She turned back to me and hugged me again. Something was definitely wrong. We had been the three amigos after Mom died, and our dad became distant. We raised each other, helped each other survive school in the Butte. Derek, 4 years older than me, had been almost a father to David, the middle child, and me, the youngest. He even helped David graduate college, and then me. During my senior year, Dad had stopped being a stranger, at least to me. I looked at David, and he shrugged and held his wife. "I'll go ahead," I said. David nodded. I took the ornamental stairs 2 at a time. My feet slowed as I got to the top, and my hands turned cold. I dreaded what was about to happen. I was afraid to open the double-glass doors with cute little wedding bells on them, bells that framed the distant figures of Derek and his wife. Derek Roberson, football star, quarterback in college, almost went pro until he got married. Among other things, he's a pro lifter. Dad's first golden child. He was a bigger version of David, taller, bigger arms, blonde, crew cut, definitely a linebacker, no neck. Bigger clone of dear old Dad. Then there's me. I was definitely not like Dad, or Derek, or David. Topping out at only 130 pounds, I've got Mom's looks. Slight build, dark hair, blue eyes, only 5'4". Definitely not a linebacker, not a football star, or a baseball one. Didn't marry a cheerleader. I was just an accountant, the runt of the family. And I'm terrified of Derek. I graduated college a year ago, but I don't have the muscles of my brothers, or their looks. Ever try getting a date when all the girls remember your older brothers and think you're adopted? It's been a decade since Mom died, and I've never stopped missing her. The sad part? David could bench press me with one arm, and Derek could with one finger. Derek scowled, his eyes blazing. His right hand clenched into a fist, the other held by his wife Charlotte, blonde, cheerleader type, which she used to be. Charlotte scowled as well, her lips pressed together into a tight line. Her arms were stiff, and she blew out of breath. Charlotte had been like a big sister to both David and me, let us stay over as often as we wanted, or at least until David got married and I went to college. She held Derek's hand as tightly as he held hers. She glanced up and saw me at the door. Charlotte whispered something to Derek. He nodded, his eyebrows furrowed, and he looked at the door, at me. His scowl softened a little as he saw me, showing the redness in his eyes. Eyes narrowed, Charlotte strode to the door and opened it. She took me by the hand and pulled me in without saying a word. "What happened?" I asked. "Just be strong. We'll deal. Cold. Businesslike. Somebody must have died. Is Dad all right?" She took me by the shoulders and led me to Derek. Derek shook his head, and his scowl deepened. He clenched his fist so tight, his huge shoulders shuddered. "Who died? Ashley?" Derek shook his head and inhaled. "Ask them." By the wall stood Ashley and Xander, my best friends since middle school and best man, holding each other's hands. Next to them were Ashley's parents and her maid of honor, all whispering, and all were pale. Ashley's eye makeup had leaked down her cheeks, the lipstick was smudged, and she was in her custom wedding gown. There was a small wet stain just above her breasts. "Ask them." Derek had never used that tone of voice before. I grew even more afraid of him. Ask them what? What's going on? Charlotte took my hand in her icy one. David and Melissa came in through the door. David looked like he wanted to hit someone with one hand. The other was wrapped around his wife. Melissa didn't bother wiping her tears anymore. Dad came around the corner and took a seat on the couch. He used to be an NFL pro linebacker back in the day. Crew cut, blonde hair streaked with gray. He used to lift, but not any longer. Doctor's orders. Nobody messes with Dad, not with his heart. He fumbled in his pocket for a small vial of pills and took one. His skin was grayish and he was crying? Dad was crying. My dad, ex-linebacker for the NFL, the toughest man I ever knew, was crying. He'd only cried once before, when he poured Mom's ashes on the desert 10 years ago. Melissa broke free of David and sat next to Dad, taking his hand in hers. Dad might seem distant to everyone else, distant to David and Derek, but not to me. I called him almost every night. Somebody had to make sure he was all right. It must be bad. But everybody I loved was here. My voice quivered. Would somebody tell me what's going on? Ashley started to cry. Her mother patted her hand, stifling a sob. Her father folded his arms and glared at Xander. Xander didn't say anything. Do you have the balls to tell him? Derek said. You owe him that much. Xander reddened and looked at his feet. Fine, Derek sneered. I caught Ashley giving Xander a blowjob about 15 minutes ago. He said as I was entering that, she's getting pretty good at it. How many times does it take to get good at something? I froze. I stared at Ashley, at Xander. That would explain her smudged lips. I bet the rest of it was on Xander's dick. My first thought was to wonder what Xander's dick looked like, with lipstick smudged on it. I told you I was gay. Then reality hit. My guts twisted inside me, and I closed my eyes. Something warm escaped the lids. A black void opened up inside me, and I wanted to throw up all over the romantic carpet. Charlotte hugged me, saying some pretty words I didn't hear. David was behind me, holding me by the shoulders. How long? I asked. Nobody said anything. How long has this been going on? I shouted. Nearly 6 months, Xander said. I'm sorry. Ashley whimpered. Her mother wrapped an arm around her. Her father took a step back, his face reddening, his fists opening and closing. I opened my eyes, accepted a tissue from David, and wiped my face. We were pledged to each other, kept ourselves pure until our wedding. Tonight was supposed to be special. Just us in Hawaii. Melissa let out a sob and buried her head on Dad's shoulder. Dad placed an arm around her, patted her shoulder. He looked grayer. His heart couldn't handle this. Mine either. It just happened, Ashley said. You were working, and we went to the bar. I was working to pay for our honeymoon. First-class tickets, a custom luau, your custom ring, your stupid designer wedding dress, for our week in Hawaii, a suite near the top of the Monarch Imperial, and the reception center you had to have. I'm sorry. You were always working, and I got lonely, Ashley said. You were lonely for 6 months, and neither of you planned on telling me? Both of you were going to let me get married while you were having an affair? I forced my shoulders to relax, but they wouldn't listen. It's our wedding day. You should have said something months ago. I thought we trusted each other. We were virgins together. We pledged. Neither said anything. We weren't virgins together any longer. My stomach knotted and twisted and unknotted. The something horrible that opened up inside me swallowed every single one of my internal organs. A wave of dizziness washed through me. Get him on the couch before he passes out, Derek ordered. Somebody led me to the couch. I sat and placed my head between my knees. Melissa took me by the shoulders and leaned in close. I am so sorry. Caterers and some of the others are arriving, David said. He couldn't hide the disgust in his voice. Tell them what's happening, Derek said. Charlotte, go with him. Run interference while we finish here. He was still the football star. The outer door opened, and David and Charlotte left. Something rustled a little, and Derek scoffed. I'm sorry, Ashley said. We never thought it would be like this. I looked up at her, my stomach a lead weight. Right now, just seeing you makes me want to throw up. I think you both should go. I never want to see either of you again. The happiest, most blissful, best, most nervous, most terrifying day had turned into the worst day of my life.